Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Ever get confused because you feel like you're a little bit of both? Do you know for sure what the difference is? In the next 5 minutes, you will learn whether you're an introvert or extrovert, what that means about how your brain works, and how it doesn't really matter as long as you remember one important thing. So, there are a million quizzes online that claim to determine whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. But honestly, it's not that hard to tell on your own. Sure, we see a lot of generalizations about either category, like extroverts are all social butterflies or introverts are all overanalyzers. But the main difference between an introvert and an extrovert isn't how they interact with others. It's how they recharge their mental energy. Basically, if you're an extrovert, it means you draw energy from interacting with other people. If you're alone for too long, you start to get irritable, depressed, and bored. But it's harder for you to get overwhelmed by having a lot of social stimulation. However, if you're an introvert, you draw energy from being alone and doing whatever you want to do. When you're around a lot of people for a long time, you start to get overwhelmed and stressed out. But you can be on your own for longer periods of time without feeling lonely or depressed. Did you find yourself nodding along with one of those descriptions? Well, then you already know who you are. See? No internet quiz required. Of course, in the real world, everything is more complicated than these two descriptions. If you're an introvert, you can absolutely go out and have a great time at a big party. And all you extroverts can absolutely enjoy a quiet afternoon reading at home. It's just that when those things are over, you'll need to recharge your mental energy, either by chilling out or by socializing. Intro and extroversion is really more of a spectrum, and people fall all along it, including right in the middle. If you fall in the middle of the EI spectrum, you are what is known as an ambivert. But there are actually neurological reasons for this, because introverts and extroverts have fundamental differences in the wiring of their brains. Brains are notoriously complicated, so there are two broad explanations for why this happens. One has to do with the way our brains process dopamine rewards, and the other has to do with our levels of cortical arousal. The rewards theory focuses on how we process dopamine, the neurotransmitter that makes us feel good about the things we're doing, especially in relation to outside motivations. Most people have the same levels of dopamine available to their systems, but not everyone processes it in the same way. If your reward pathways are more activated by social situations, you are an extrovert. In a recent study, extroverts and introverts were split into two groups. One that was given Ritalin, which stimulates dopamine release, and another that was given a placebo. Both groups were shown a series of films featuring nature scenes. After 3 days, the scientists stopped giving out Ritalin and had the participants watch the videos again. The extroverts who had taken Ritalin were stimulated by the videos because their neural pathways associated them with dopamine release. But the introverts were not particularly stimulated at all, indicating that there are fundamental differences in their dopamine reward pathways. The cortical arousal theory centers around how much activity is baseline normal for different brains. There's a part of your brain that basically regulates how much arousal or activity you've got going on at any particular time. The baseline is lower for some people than it is for others, but we all have an optimal level that requires some outside stimulation. If your baseline stimulation is on the higher end, you need less outside stimulation to be at the perfect level of mental arousal, which means you're on the introverted side of the spectrum. If you're an extrovert, your baseline arousal is lower, and you need more external stimulation for your brain to be at an optimal level. So what's that one thing everybody should remember, regardless of whether you're an introvert or extrovert? Okay, we lied, because it's not just one thing. Your brain is wired the way it's wired. You can't help what you are, and you can't really help how you feel. So pay attention to your feelings. Enjoy your life the way you're feeling it. And don't apologize for your feels, because they're your feels, and they're beautiful and real. In other words, appreciate who you are and just be yourself. Unless you're a jerk. Don't be a jerk.